What's up? This is Trey T, and in this video, I will be reviewing the movie The Flash. Before I continue, I want to let you know there will be spoilers in the video, so just be prepared. Spoiler alert. The movie starts off with Flash being late to work. Before work, he goes to try to get a sandwich, and the guy behind the counter is taking forever to make his sandwich. And then Barry receives a call from Alfred, and Alfred tells Barry that he needs his help because Superman is busy. He can't reach Wonder Woman, and Batman is busy apprehending some robbers. So he needs Barry's help to go do some things. So Barry zooms out of the back of the sandwich store to go help Alfred. He's listening to Alfred, and some kids spot him. And there's one kid eating a candy bar. He asks the girl if he can have a candy bar because he's running low on energy. But it doesn't help. So he doesn't get the candy bar, and he just takes off running wherever Alfred is sending him. Some type of explosion happens, and Barry has to run around the city saving people. And while he's doing that, the hospital where a whole bunch of babies in the nursery is about to explode, and the windows start to break. So Barry had to make his way up to the top to get to the nursery where the nurse is in there with the babies, and the windows are already breaking. At the same time, Batman is in a high-speed chase trying to stop the people who committed the robbery, and they're shooting at him. And the police eventually intervene and try to help. But the robbers, one of them shoots one of the cop cars, and the cop car ends up flipping over. And then it almost hits Batman, but Batman gets away and continues to chase the robbers. The hospital is starting to explode, and now the babies are falling out of the window, so Flash has to get there in time to be able to save the babies and the nurse falling out of the windows at the hospital. But because Flash never got anything to eat, he's running low on energy. He's almost out of energy. But again, slow motion scenes like always. So they basically took the X-Men scene from Quicksilver in what was it, Days of Future Past? Or was it First Class? I don't remember. But they basically took that type of scene and made it slow motion to where Flash is able to save all the babies in time before they get set on fire or get splashed with like some chemicals or whatever. Before he starts to save the baby, though, he sees a vending machine, and he breaks through the vending machine so he can get him something to eat and something to drink so he can recharge himself. And then he proceeds to save all the babies, the nurse, and it was a dog somehow that fell out of the hospital. I don't know where that dog came from, but he also saves the dog too. Batman loses his car in an explosion, so now he has to grapple on to the robbers' Jeep or whatever vehicle they're driving, and now they're basically dragging Batman on the street. Look, I'm gonna just be honest. I don't care how strong Batman's armor is. If he was really being drugged on that street like that, Batman would have been dead. But anyway, he's being drugged on the street, and he's trying to keep his balance, and they're shooting at him also. But he eventually is able to get on top of the vehicle, knock the first dude out, and then he gets inside the vehicle, and the dude driving just jumps out of the car, and the other dude is that Batman apprehends inside the vehicle, and the vehicle swerves off the road over the bridge, and now Batman and the robber are hanging off the bridge. And the robber, I guess they robbed some kind of industrial building or something because he has some chemicals. And Alfred is telling Batman if those chemicals get in the water, it's going to cause problems for the city. So now Batman and the robber are hanging. Batman is grappled onto the bridge, but he's losing grip of the robber, and they are eventually saved. Someone saves them. It turns out it was Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman ends up being the one that saves them by using the lasso of truth. So she pulls Batman and the robber up, and then Flash comes to join them, and she tells Batman to say thank you, and then he's like, oh, well, my ego won't allow me to say thank you. And then he realizes he still got the lasso of truth wrapped around him and stuff. And they laugh and joke for a couple of seconds. And then Batman leaves and Wonder Woman leaves. And then Barry goes back to the shop to get his sandwich. So I'm gonna be real. I know Barry is fast, but there's no way all this stuff occurred with the explosion and all that, and that dude still hadn't finished fixing Barry's sandwich. It's no possible. I don't care how fast Barry is. There's no way that happened. Barry finally makes it to work, and his friends start messing with him like he's gonna kill you and blah 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 blah. So then he gets to meet with his boss, and his boss starts yelling at him, and he's telling him, "You have so much potential, but you're wasting it. You're always coming late and all this." So then Barry goes outside, and he sees his boss talking with like reporters and stuff, and he sees Iris West. Iris West starts to come up to him, and they start talking. And they're talking about Henry Allen's trial, which is Barry's father, that is starting soon. And then Iris talks to Barry, and she's a reporter, and she's asking him about his father and his trial. So then Barry goes home, and he sees an envelope waiting for him in front of his door. And it's a video of his dad's surveillance the day his mom was killed. And in the video, he wanted to use the video to help try to prove his dad's innocence, to show my dad couldn't have been the one to kill my mom because he was in the store buying tomatoes at the time. But in the video, while it is Barry's father in the store, he never looks up, so the camera can never see his face. So the video is not going to help clear his name. So then Barry gets on the phone, and he calls his dad, and his dad talked to him. And his dad told him that it was going to be a long shot anyway. We knew this. This is like the final appeal and all that. And Barry needs to go on with his life. And while Barry is talking to him, he starts reminiscing about the day his mom died and how they used to be as a family. And then the grief just starts to get to Barry, and he just starts running. And then it turns out he runs so fast that he actually goes back in time like a few minutes or a few hours or something like that. So once he realized this, he goes to tell Bruce, and he's telling Bruce, like, I can go back and I can fix everything. And Batman is trying to tell him it's not a good idea. You shouldn't change time. You'll mess up the timeline. And then Barry tries to tell him, I can save my parents. I can save your parents. Like, and Batman thinks about it, but he was like, nah, you're going to mess up the timeline, and the timeline is fragile and all that. And then Barry tells Batman Batman tells Barry, like, our parents' death make us who we are. And then Barry told Batman, yeah, look what it made you Batman. And then Batman tells him, and it also made me a loner too. So he tells Barry, promise me you won't go back in time. You won't mess with the timeline. And Barry's like, okay, I won't. So then Barry sees Iris, and he invites her into his house, and they start talking and stuff. They start talking. She apologizes for earlier mentioning about his dad. And then they get to talking, and then Barry starts reminiscing, like, I wish it was some way I could go back in time and fix it. And then Iris was like, yeah, if only you could do that and all that. And then he tells Iris he has to go. And then once that happened, he neglected everything Bruce told him, and he was like, forget it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to travel back in time, and I'm going to save my mom from getting killed. So then Barry starts to run, and he starts running so fast that he starts going through time. And while he's going back in time, another speedster appears. Now, it was a speedster. He was dressed in all black. Like, me being a fan of the Flash TV show, I started thinking it was one of those, like, time demon things that try to catch speedsters who mess with time. But then I thought about it. I'm like, man, I don't know this dude. He looked like, it's not Zoom. It didn't look like Zoom. It didn't look like the Reverse Flash. Then I thought about it. I'm like, man, the dude, because the speedster knocked Barry out of the timeline, like of the Speed Force, and knocked him out into a certain period. So then I thought to myself, I was like, man, this could be Savitar. It looked like Savitar. So once back in time, Barry runs back to the time when his mom was killed, and he goes to the store to make sure to put the tomatoes in her basket so that she doesn't forget them. That way his father doesn't have to leave the house and leaving her alone to where the killer can come in there and kill her. So he goes to the store, he gets the tomatoes and puts them in her basket. This is one thing I noticed about all of these Flash characters. I know with like the controversy of the Little Mermaid, that they made the Little Mermaid black and stuff. They kind of did the same thing with the Flash character. They didn't make him black, but since when has the Flash ever had like black hair? And then now his mom is like some kind of Hispanic. His dad got black hair. The mom got black hair. Barry has black hair. When has Barry ever had black or brown hair? So now back in the past, Barry goes to his old house and he walks in the house and he sees his mom in the kitchen and he comes up behind her and he taps her on the shoulder and then they hug because she's thinking that's her son coming home from college. And she's like, oh, you got a haircut. Oh, I'm so glad you got a haircut. You look so much better now. And then the dad comes in and they all laughing and joking and stuff. And then Barry happens to look out the window and he sees a 18-year-old version of himself coming from across the street. So he was like, oh shit. So then he runs outside and like he tackles his self from the past. And he starts talking to him and stuff. And then they go upstairs. They sneak in the house and go upstairs. And Barry starts telling them that he's him from the future. And you got to be careful and all this type of stuff. And the younger Barry starts asking Barry about his powers and asking him to show him and stuff like that. And then the younger Barry tells future Barry that he has a date with Iris tonight. And then Barry thinks about it. He was like, what date is it? And then he tells him the date. He was like, oh, tonight's the night I got my power, so you can't go on that date tonight because I got to take you to the place where you get your power, so I get my powers in the future. So then they sneak into the building where Barry got his powers, and Barry has to pick his younger self up and phase him through the walls and stuff so they can sneak in without being recognized. So then once they get inside, Barry, the younger Barry, is like, I don't want to get electrocuted. And then future Barry is like, you got to get, or I'll never get my power. He's like, no, I don't want to. So then they start fighting, and then the lightning comes through the window and it strikes both of them. And when it strikes both of them, future Barry actually ends up losing his power, and the younger Barry ends up gaining power. And once he realizes he has powers, he starts running around like a little child, happy that he got power, not realizing that he don't know how to control his powers yet. So he runs through the city, causing all types of explosions and damages and stuff. And his clothes catch on fire because of the speed. And then he has to run back home. And then Barry has to begin to train to try to help him control his powers. And he told him about how his suit is what helps keep him from catching on fire, that you can't just run in your regular clothes or they just go burn up. While he's telling young Barry this, a message appears like all over the news and stuff. It's General Zod. He's come to Earth. He's looking for a Kryptonian that has landed on Earth years ago. So Zod is beginning to threaten people. And then that's when Barry realized this is just like what happened before. And it actually turns out when Zod came the first time, that's when Barry had first got his powers. And he was trying to help people, but he couldn't really control his powers yet. And the only person he could end up helping was a little boy, but he couldn't save the little boy's dad. He could only save the little boy. The dad got sucked up in Zod's machine. So now both Flashes go to 18-year-old Flash's dorm room, where future Flash meets his roommates, and he is trying to look up the information to try to find Clark Kent and Victor Stone. He looks up Victor Stone, but Victor Stone isn't Cyborg yet. And then he can't find any information on Clark Kent or Arthur Curry. He called somebody in the phone book named Arthur Curry, but that wasn't Aquaman. So then he mentions Back to the Future and mentions Michael J. Fox. And the roommates are like, what are you talking about? Michael J. Fox wasn't in Back to the Future. It was Eric Stoltz. He was Marty McFly. So that's when Flash realized he changed, the timelines have changed. And then they asked him about Batman. He asked them about Batman, and Batman was still real. So, but nobody knew who he was. So once he heard that, he decided to try to go to Gotham to try to find Batman. Maybe Batman can help him find Superman. So then both the Flashes go to Gotham City, and they try to track down Batman. So they go to Wayne Manor, and they break into Wayne Manor. And when they go into the kitchen, they end up being attacked by an old man, and the old man turned out to be Bruce Wayne. And then Bruce Wayne starts telling the Flash about, he uses spaghetti to tell him about alternate dimensions and the timeline. If you do one thing, this could change this in the timeline. So then, he asked Batman, can he help him find Superman? And Batman tells him, no, I'm not going to help you. So then Barry is like, well, if he's not going to help us, I'll have to do it myself. We'll have to do it ourselves. So then Barry and young Barry break into the Batcave, and they start using Batman's equipment and stuff. And young Barry is so immature. He's all over the place, so impulsive. And he's starting to annoy future Barry. And he's telling them, why don't you need to start taking stuff seriously and all that. So then it's cameras in the Batcave. So Barry tells Bruce, I know you're watching me. So then Barry starts telling them about like his parents and stuff, and he got to save the world. He needs to undo what he did and all that. So then Batman starts reminiscing about what happened to his parents. And so that's when Batman decides, okay, I'm gonna help him. So he goes and he opens up and he shows like all his Batman suits. And then he changes it to one of his Batman suits. And then the next morning when Flash wakes up, Batman agrees to help him find the alien. So Batman uses his resources to help locate an alien that landed on Earth years ago and is being kept somewhere. The location is actually in Russia. So all three of them get in Batman's plane and they fly to Russia to get the alien. And once they get to the location, they go inside, and the alien is being kept in like a location with these red lights. And then Flash looks and he realizes that the alien is not Superman, it's actually a girl. And Flash is like, we can't just leave her here, Superman or not, we can't just leave her here. So they escape with the girl, and now they got to make their way. He was like, we got to get to the roof. So they escape with the girl and they make their way up to the roof, and they let the girl like in the sunlight. So the light from the sun, she absorbs it and she regains her strength, and then she attacks the army, and now they all can leave because she defeated the army. So now they all go back to Gotham City, and then Flash tells her, okay, we got to take her to the roof so she can regain more of her strength. So she tells them her name is Kara Zor-El, and she was sent to Earth to protect her cousin Kal-El. And then Flash tells her about General Zod, and then that's when she decides to go to try to find Zod to see what's going on. And when she sees Zod, coming and talking to the Earthlings, and then he kills one of them, and then that's when she realized she's gonna need help fighting Zod. So she goes back to Wayne Manor. Flash realizes he has to get his powers back, so he asks Batman to help him regain his powers by getting lightning to strike him. And Batman was calling him crazy and stuff. So they built the machine to get the lightning to strike Barry. And the first strike, it harms Barry a lot. but they can't do a second strike because it fried the machine. So just then, Supergirl came back, and Barry is wounded, but she picks Barry up and she flies him up into the sky where the lightning, so the lightning can strike him. And just then, when she flew him up to the sky, the lightning struck him, and then she brought him back down, and he regained his powers. So now they got their own new Justice League. It's not the old Justice League, but now they got the new Justice League with both Flashes, Supergirl, and Batman. And now they got to go fight General Zod. So now the new Justice League arrives on the scene and getting ready to fight General Zod and his army. And Supergirl confronts General Zod, and he tells her that an infant ship was apprehended to see if it had the codex in it that was the genetic material for Krypton. And when she asked what happened to the baby, Zod basically told her, well, he didn't say he was basically implying we killed the baby. So once that happened, Supergirl became enraged and she blasted General Zod with her heat vision, and then those two started fighting. While those two were fighting, Flash was trying to tell young Flash, okay, you don't have my suit. You have the powers, but you don't have the suit. So you got to be careful not to use up all your energy and stuff, because young Flash used one of Batman's old suits to make him a new suit. But it wasn't the same as Future Flash's suit. So he told him you got to be able to control your energy. And while this is going on, Batman is trying to fight the stuff, he's in the ship, trying to shoot stuff down. General Zod and Supergirl continue fighting while Zod begins to terraform the Earth. Both of them are going back and forth, back and forth. Batman decides to try to take out General Zods ship. During her fight with General Zod, Supergirl is killed by Zod, and then he begins to harvest the genetic material from inside her. And right after that happens, Batman attempts to blow up Zod's ship, but it's protected by a force field, and it reflects, and Batman ends up getting blown up. So then both Flashes realize they're not going to be able to win without Supergirl and Batman, so they run back in time to change it to where Supergirl and Batman are back alive again. And once they do that in the new timeline, General Zod kills Supergirl again, and then Batman ends up getting killed again. So once again, both Flashes decide to run back in time to try to bring Supergirl and Batman back alive. A piece of Kryptonian shrapnel gets caught in young Flash's arm, and it gets stuck, but he uses it to kill Feora before they try to run back in time. Once they run back in time, they begin to realize no matter how many times they ran back, Supergirl and Batman still get killed every single time, no matter how many times they did it. And that's when Future Flash realized it was nothing he could do. It's inevitable. The only thing he could really do to stop this is he got to go back in time and let his mom get killed. That's the only way for things to go back to normal. But once the young Flash, he tells the young Flash is like, how can you go back and try to get our mom killed? And they start talking. And once they start talking, the speedster that knocked Flash off course in the very beginning comes out of nowhere and attacks both of them. So he really wasn't Savitar, but he was, to me, as somebody who watched the Flash TV show, to me, it was 50-50 Savitar for me. Because basically how in the TV show, Savitar was an old version of Barry, the time remnant, got killed or whatever, that sacrificed his life. This was a different version of Barry that was actually trapped in the time loop because he keeps going back trying to save his mom, but it doesn't work. So that's who this speedster is. So that's why I say it's basically like Savitar for me. So this Savitar gets angry that Future Barry wants Nora Allen to get killed. So he tries to kill Future Barry, and Young Barry gets in between them, and Young Barry ends up getting killed. So when Young Barry gets killed, that means the speedster he killed himself basically, and then he disappears. Future Flash looks up and starts to notice the different versions of timelines, because you have different versions of Superman, Supergirl, Batman. You have the Nicolas Cage Superman, the Christopher Reeve Superman. You had Jack Nicholson Joker. Like, you can hear it in the back. It was Cesar Romero's Joker. You can hear. So it was just different versions of the heroes in the timeline that Barry saw. Adam West Batman was in there. You can see that. So it was just different versions of Batman that you could see. So then Future Barry decides to go back in time to before his mom was killed, and he goes to see her in the store, and they talk to each other, and he starts crying, and she gives him a hug and all that. And then he takes the tomatoes, because remember earlier in the movie he put the tomatoes in her basket so they wouldn't have to go back to the store to get them. Now he went back in time and took them out of the basket, and he put them on a higher shelf. The reason why he put them on a higher shelf, and then he went back to the future. The reason why he went to his dad's court case, his trial. The reason why he put them back on the top shelf, because now in the surveillance video, his dad has to reach up higher to get the tomatoes. And when he reaches up, he looks up and the camera can see his face. So that gives him an alibi for not being the one to kill the mom, because he was in the store during that time. So Flash wasn't able to save his mom, but he was able to save his dad. And then outside of the courtroom, Flash finally sets a date with Iris West. And after talking to Iris, he gets on the phone and starts talking to Bruce, how he was able to fix everything. He went back and turned everything, made everything normal again. And while he's on the phone with Bruce, Bruce is pulling up to the courtroom. And when Bruce steps out the car, it's not Ben Affleck's Batman, it's George Clooney's Batman. So Flash is like, oh man, I did mess up the timeline. So now it's a different Batman in the future. And then in the mid-credit scenes, you can see a drunken Aquaman and Flash coming out of a bar. And Aquaman is stumbling and stuff. And he falls face first into like a puddle of water. And then he gives Flash some kind of ring. So for my review, for the backstory, I give it a 5 out of 10. Because they never really... I like the original storyline where they mentioned it was another speedster that killed her. Like, neither Henry or Barry saw another speedster, so I didn't like that they didn't mention that at all. So I'm giving that a 5 out of 10. The plot, I give a 6.5 out of 10. Like, it was kind of predictable. The protagonist, Barry, he wasn't the greatest hero, but he saved Supergirl, and then he tried to save his mom. He tried to go back in time. He did try to keep saving Batman and Supergirl, but it just didn't work out. So I give that a 7 out of 10. The antagonist, a lot of people would think that General Zod is the antagonist of this movie, but to me, I feel like Destiny and Fate is the actual antagonist, because it just proves that Fate was going to win regardless. No matter how many times they tried to save Batman and Supergirl, it just didn't work. So that's why I say the antagonist, I'm giving a 9.5 out of 10. For me, the climax of the movie was when they realized no matter how many times they went back in time, they couldn't save Batman and Supergirl. That, to me, was the climax. That's when Flash realized there was nothing he can do. It was inevitable. He can't save everybody, so he just got to end up letting his mom get killed. So overall, I'm going to actually give the movie like a 7.1 out of 10. It wasn't the greatest, but I can't say it was like trash. Like some people, oh man, that Flash movie was trash. Because it did have some action in it. And then Supergirl and Michael Keaton's Batman, they did their part. The beginning of the movie is still kind of like slow. But like once you get to where Zod comes into play, it kind of picks up. So I'm gonna give it an overall 7.1 out of 10. But anyway, thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel. More videos coming soon. Trey T out. Peace.